This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'm going to start by welcoming to the show Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And then Lindsay McBrayer.
Good morning.
Good morning. Wow, have we had like one of the most chaotic weeks that America could have ever seen?
I've had no sleep.
Right. I definitely was manic on a couple days, just in shock. I felt like it was 9/11 all over again this week. Just kind of rolling over the thoughts in your head, moving on autopilot, not really sure what's going on around you. Definitely scary for society in general.
Yeah.
I did want to start out with, obviously, we are on 9/12, which is the day after 9/11. So, of course, I wanted to read a couple things that kind of moved me this week in light of the events of Charlie Kirk. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the Irina Karutska event that happened in North Carolina. And of course, Charlie Kirk is really kind of taking the forefront in the media, and the Irina Zarutska case is a little bit more downplayed, but I do have some friends that posted information. So I quickly looked up some of that stuff last night. Now I'm going to start by saying it's not that I necessarily agree with everything that Charlie Kirk had to say, but he didn't deserve to die, as most people are kind of, talking about right now. One of the things that I saw from yesterday was a concert that Jelly Roll participated in. Now, this big teddy bear, I think I just love him because the messages in his songs are great. Are both of you familiar with Jelly Roll?
Oh, yeah. I love him.
I've heard a couple of his songs.
Okay. So it says, last night in Nashville, Jelly Roll delivered a moment so powerful it left an entire stadium breathless. In the middle of his set, just as the music thundered and the lights blazed, he suddenly stopped, holding the microphone close. His voice rang out across the crowd, asking everyone to join him in a 1-minute moment of silence for Charlie Kirk and the innocent lives lost on 9/11. Then silence. More than 25,000 people stood still. No cheers, no music, only reverence. A single minute passed, heavy with sorrow, yet radiant with unity. When the silence ended, Jelly Roll lifted his voice, soft at first, then rising strong, he began to sing God Bless America. The crowd erupted, tens of thousands of voices soaring together, filling the night sky with a chorus of hope and pride. American flags waved high, tears streamed down faces. What had been silence became a tidal wave of song, spirit, and unbreakable togetherness. Jelly Roll didn't just pause a concert, he transformed it into a sacred tribute, a reminder of loss, resilience, and the grace of a nation standing as one. Now, that almost wanted to bring me to tears because it reminds me of things like Bob Marley, Elvis Presley, John Lennon. Oh gosh, I forgot the next person's name. Those that could bring the masses together, basically, that their lives were ended early. And of course, JFK, yes. Anybody who could bring and unite us seems to have been taken away from us at one point or another. And when I was reading about the Charlie Kirk stuff, it said it had mentioned that he may possibly have been our next president at some point, that he may have been being groomed for this, that he had a good shot for this. So, of course, that always takes me back to what we see happening in these presentations where they can make and they can break you. There was a couple other things that I wanted to read off here, and one of them was another statement or another posting by an individual that says they want you split, left versus right, red versus blue. It's the oldest trick in the book. Divide, distract, and devour. While lives are lost and grief is real, don't mistake tragedy for tribal loyalty. No politician is your friend. They serve power, not people. Grieve the human cost, question the narrative, and refuse to be weaponized. That moved me as well.
Yeah.
One of my more recent friends, who is the drummer for the Young Dubliners, posted, "I miss 9/12." And here we are on 9/12. He said, "I would never ever want another 9/11, but I miss the America of 9/12. Stores ran out of flags to sell because they were being flown everywhere. People were Americans before they were upper or lower class, Jewish or Christian, Republican or Democrat. We hugged people without caring if they ate at Chick-fil-A or wore Nikes. On 9/12, what mattered more was what united us than what divided us." Ugh, goosebumps.
Oh my gosh.
So I would like to just take a couple seconds of silence here for the 9/11 events and the anniversary that occurred yesterday. All right. Yeah. Little tears in my eyes.
Me too. Yeah.
Right? I'm awestruck.
I was in 3rd grade.
Oh wow.
I remember in the classroom we were listening to the radio, because our teacher had a boombox and we were listening to all of it going on.
Was George Bush reading to you?
No. Thank God.
That's where he was. He was in an elementary school reading to some kids when it went down.
Yeah.
Right. And
how
then
convenient.
Right. And then that followed by the anthrax attacks, which occurred, I believe, September 18th. And for maybe the next following week, these letters had gone out. And of course, it has been determined that the anthrax mailings were not a fact or a sect, like it was led to believe in the letters, that it was actually an American strain of anthrax, that the letter was written by an American. Just went over, well, I haven't gone over the profile of that yet. I'd hope to have that available today. For the graphology part of the actual letters that were written by the author, but we will get to that, and probably more likely once we enter that realm in 2001. Either way,
real quick before I wanted just to mention that one of the first people that was in the media reporting on 9/11 was John Walsh. And he covered the entire special that night or that day, the next day, that was on NBC, that 2-hour special of that, if you guys remember. It's still out there. And I actually have a copy of it. And he covered the entire 2 hours of that special that he did right after.
Right. And that was, I guess, a lot of disinformation as well. We weren't certainly meant to have the truth of that. We may not even be alive when that information is finally released, kind of like MK Ultra.
We're never going to get the full truth of 9/11.
No, certainly not. And interestingly enough, that you make that statement, of course, we're trying to show this cross connection of him doing the Zodiac with Tom Voigt and Bart Baggett, and then the Zodiac reaching out to both Tom Voigt and to John Walsh, the circle that connects these things together. And I think that when I skipped across the anthrax mailings during my examinations of all of these cases, I was kind of throwing around the theory at that point in time that Jack had recently been turned into the FBI in 2000, and that in 2001, if he was called back to duty to do something like this, it was probably in exchange for living out the balance of his life. It's kind of the way I felt. Yeah. So I do think that he
feel sorry for Ivans.
Correct.
He was
well, and that's what they do with. That's how they treat those CIA informants too.
Yeah, my conversations with the gal that did the profile on the anthrax mailings had indicated that many of these scientists were kind of a little tweaked out in the minds themselves, and likely suspects. And I think that she even alluded to the fact that she believed that Bruce Ivans was a good suspect for it. But I think that we can see that and she may not know all of the backstory. Again, even though she's done the profiles, she's not researched the cases like I have done. And when she makes the comment that she believes that he could possibly be the one, it kind of floors me because when the FBI came out and tried to close the case on him, I believe was 2013, and Congress came back a week later and did a press conference saying that you're not closing the case on Ivins. He doesn't match the MO. The handwriting doesn't match. There was no real solid evidence to show or support that he was. It was just speculation and circumstantial. But that to me showed me that Congress cared more about solving the case than closing the case. FBI. Yes, 100%. Yeah. So, that may not be something that she knows or understands. So when she says to me that she believes he was a good suspect for it, he may have been. And if scientists are all a little quirky, they may very well have some of these graphological traits that says they could. But the difference, again, is between whether or not you step over that line and actually do it.
Correct. Just a brief aside, the Sacramento Bee was one of the leading publications in the country to do a big investigation on the anthrax, and they were of the opinion, no, it wasn't, for sure it wasn't Ivins.
Right, 100%. And of course, the talk here around town in Sacramento was, and I remember it vividly, people saying that that's the Zodiac's writing. And I thought, you guys are all nuts. Like, you can't really be talking about the Zodiac. He's a serial killer from 40 years ago. What in the world would he have to do with this? And then lo and behold, through the research that I've completed, it shows that he can be a likely suspect, and one should look at that. And if you think about the MO of a serial killer who starts with baby steps and children, weak women, older women, and then moves his way into couples with males involved, and then trickles back down to children, and then before we know it, into anthrax. It would be the perfect progression and evolution of a serial killer to then, in his end days, be able to perpetrate the continuance of killing people, but in a method that's less invasive to him.
Exactly.
I think maybe a participant in the overall scheme. I think there are other people involved and connected in high places. It's another crime they don't really want solved. That's why they always want to pin it on a lone person and then call it a day.
Yep.
And it's the same
like Otis O'Toole and Henry Lee Lucas. So there's no coincidence that we're about to climb back into the John Walsh connections that Lindsay has provided, and that these two individuals happen to have been part of a major conspiracy to close hundreds of cases across the United States on somebody who didn't actively commit those crimes, and the push to get public to believe that. And in the end, we figured it out, which this is why these suspects fell to the wayside, because we did figure it out. As Americans, we are pretty smart. And if we do remember the past, which I think most people fail to because they're so busy with everyday life, but when you do remember the past and you put those pieces together, you start to recognize where all of it is coming from.
Yeah.
All right. So we left off last.
A better idea. Yeah, for sure. You can't keep focus on one guy and be the wrong guy and then be too stubborn to admit you were wrong.
Exactly.
And it is true that age does provide wisdom and, being able to understand things more. 100%.
And history is narrated by the individuals who want America to believe what they want us to believe. I remember growing up always thinking that Christopher Columbus founded America, right? And that notion has long since been dispelled. They knew the truth.
But they're still teaching it. They're still teaching that.
And there's a good portion of the population that thinks Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone assassin.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, without the time to be able to research and dive into these things, it makes it nearly impossible for most to even, climb on board with the truth.
And then the way that I do it, the way that I have tried to do it and have continued is each year, each grade that, my daughter goes into, because my son he got starter school this year. So, the first year doesn't really matter. But that first grade is where I started to, okay, what'd you learn today? What'd you learn in history? What'd you learn in science? And then breaking those things down for her each year has really made her understand things way more and be able to discern what is true and what is not. Even though she's being taught something, she's been able to break it down herself at this point. She's in sixth grade now, and she'll come home and say, well, this is what we learned, and I know that's not true because we know such and such. Like, literally. And I'm going to continue to do that because it has literally helped her break things down and have that discernment for her own self to think and say and question things like, no, this is not, this can't be, you know what I mean? And then later on in her life, she's going to appreciate that and be able to put things together so much easier and be able to discern so much like it's nothing.
Correct. And is she learning cursive writing?
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%. The best thing you can do for your children is to ensure that they learn cursive, whether your schools are teaching it or not. It teaches the brain to work in a diversified pattern that allows it to think 5 steps ahead. And so removing that from the school system has really dumbed down the population of a couple decades, actually, because it went out in about 96. We're starting to see it slowly but surely roll back in. So yeah, thank you for that. All right, so back to the murders. On April 8th of 1992, we had Robin Fuldauer, in Indianapolis shoe store clerk. This is part of the I-70 murders. I did put in there that I need to research these murders because I've not done any research on them, but it is in the general location. We have April 11th of 1992, Patricia Smith in Wichita, Kansas at a bridal shop. We know that there is a relation to Kansas for Jack. Shot after being pushed into the back room. Again, it's part of the I-70 murders, and it seems to follow suit with these little shop murders, as I'm going to call them, because we saw the yogurt shop murders that occurred in Texas when Jack has left Nora, or maybe Nora left him. I don't know the story. Either way, they've separated. Jack is back in Texas, and we start to see this series of little shops and murders that are occurring in them. So so it says he shot after being pushed back into a room, Patricia was, but that the suspect let a witness go after being seen, and it was a male customer. So I do think we covered that last week, and then on April 16th of 1992, we had the murder of a Hispanic woman named Maria Carmen de la Estrada. Now, this has been identified as being killed by Anthony Allen Shore. There's reference to a partner named Allen in the Oakland County child murders. We know the relation that they tried to make between Arthur Lee Allen and the Zodiac. So it made me wonder whether or not this Anthony Allen Shore was an acquaintance of Jack's, because he happens to be in the same area. And in the 2005 finale letter, the author mentions that he's not the only person who's killing in Texas at this time, that there's somebody else that is killing the Hispanics and the Oriental. So it's definitely something to ponder. So this has been brought into the display because Jack recognized, like I said, this killer in 2005. I believe that the confession letter to Tim Miller is from Jack. I will still maintain that. Tim Miller checked back in with me about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago, to find out whether or not I still believe that Jack was the Zodiac, which I then confirmed once again, realizing that he had taken out a case against his primary suspect and won for a wrongful death suit. I think that he was very much so questioning his own acts against this individual as the possible killer of his daughter. So if he's questioning it, then that tells me that he is not solid on the answers that he needs to feel satisfied about what occurred with his daughter.
So you're saying he won a civil suit against a suspected killer, but was that person convicted in a criminal case?
No, he was not convicted in a criminal case. It was a civil suit for wrongful death, and he won something like, I think, $14 million. Clyde, his name was Clyde. I'd have to go back to it to see. If you look at the guy, I mean, he doesn't look worthy of a pot.
He was like a neighbor or something.
Yeah, he was somebody
on the street that she used to walk on.
And she said he was creepy. Yeah, but creepy doesn't cross the line of murderous. So, again. Now, these... I think that a lot of the things that you provided me this last week by email are things that we have gone over before, but I always feel like it's worth repeating since we're just now coming off of the letters of the Scorpion issues. And I noted that we had in here, I think that this one was where we discussed, this first article was where we discussed the theory of him working for, or not wanting to transport drugs for the Bahama cartel, correct?
Yeah.
So when we moved over into the Allen Riverbank Ventures, this is John Denver. That was the fourth name I meant to think of, and Allen Riverbank just kind of brought that into play. This particular article talks about, I believe, him being in an airplane crash, correct?
John Denver was, yes, small plane.
Oh yeah,
small
and
plane.
the one that went to identify the people that crashed was John Monahan, and that was John's boss at the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood, Florida.
Well, and it says
also the one who identified Adam's head.
Right, and that's that connection. And it does state that one of the victims was Monahan's 23 years younger fiance. So that is very much a plausibility as to why he was there to make an identification was for her. But the fact that she's on a plane with Allen Riverbank, Bark, I can say his name, it's so odd. It shows that connection that you were talking about and the group that is intertwined there. Let's see. Oh, so he claimed and identified 6 of the bodies, excluding only a man with Japanese name who was thought to be Rivenbark's bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
He also made the arrangements for dental records, and he kind of took charge of the whole situation. So here again, we have this individual stepping in to control the situation, in which case I think if it had been taken over by the proper authorities, that would, it's almost like Scientology where they handle their own in-house retributions.
Yeah.
So this crash occurred where?
It
Colorado.
said, Rocky Mountains, Greeland reported. So yeah, in Rocky Mountains, Colorado.
Okay.
And now, they were, well, she's about, I think you're about to go over that part I was about to say.
What's that? No, you fill me in because I really don't know a lot about these connections.
So these planes were suspected to be carrying drugs and across different areas.
That's what I thought that I read. Oh yeah, okay. So said Wayne Valentine, chief of DEA's Denver office, it's very likely possibility the plane was carrying cocaine from South America to the United States. At the crash site, investigators had found 30 handguns, a holster, one holstered to a victim's leg, and $50,000 to $60,000 in cash in the fresh snow. So they probably hustled there and cleared the site, given the opportunity to do so, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to actually, this is exactly kind of the scenario that occurred in the wrongful death conviction of Peter Wilson that I've been discussing, is that the officers who showed up to do the forensics was actually called by their supervisor and told to immediately return, instead of taking pictures of the scene, to immediately return to the police station for some reason. So they're halted in their acts of recording of their investigation and recording of the happenstances. And this is when I believe, meanwhile, Officer Yore removed that vial of blood, came back and splashed it around the crime scene, called out to the coroner to ask him to show up, but he doesn't call him until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and he tells him, give it about 45 minutes before you show up. And even when he shows up, he's made to wait outside 20 to 25 minutes until they finish whatever it is they're doing. So this scenario sounds exactly the same. You've got somebody who's controlling the narrative of what's going to be known about this particular site, and probably to collect their drugs before that's found, because that's a major
did they
loss.
Find any drugs? Yeah.
It's not saying. The DEA believes it was very possible, right?
Yeah.
Here's another.
So they probably got him. And that's why Monahan was sent.
Exactly. Exactly. All 7 passengers die in a crash. So this article, what did you find interesting about this one?
So this is another article this is the actual article that's talking about it. And that other piece that I sent you was where that reporter wrote about it in his book. And this is the actual article about it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, then this is here on the screen for anybody to come back to and look at another point, but basically covers the items we were just discussing. Now, I know that we looked at this because
One point.
Rivenbark. Yes.
Yeah. I love that the cost of that edition of the newspaper was 25 cents.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Love it.
And that's why they had to sell millions. So the stories needed to be grand in order to sell millions. Now, this one, I know that we've seen this article before, and of course, it makes that connection from Meyer Lansky to Rivenbark, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And of course, that just brings everybody, Monahan, Rivenbark, everybody into the mob realm, as you have suggested, which ties right back directly to John Walsh, who wanted Monahan to obviously control the investigation or even the identification of his son. Is there anything else?
He called him his best friend in his book.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't know about the background that you've dug up. Have you talked any more to Megan about being on the show?
Yep. I think she's about to be in a good place where she can have a clear mind for everything.
Good.
So she's doing good. Yeah.
It would be good to hear from her. So is there anything else? I see that there's a red box around Ogawa 32. A karate expert, was a bouncer at Hollywood's old 4 o'clock club before he was hired. He had been using the name Kenji Bando because he was a fugitive from Danya police charges. Danya, like Florida?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. That he kidnapped and sexually assaulted a 19-year-old prostitute. Ogawa's former boss at the 4 o'clock club, Mickey Rauso, also was charged in the assault. Rauso was later convicted on lesser charges. So
it just kind of gives you a picture of what was going on during that time, and you could see how easy it was to get away with these things when you had all this other chaos.
Crazy.
So it says, but for a stroke of fate, there would have been 8 victims. Hollandale hotel consultant John F. Monahan, who said he had been negotiating with Rivenbark to promote the ranch. Oh my God! Every time you say ranch, all I hear is Epstein. Was scheduled to be on the flight, but had to cancel at the last minute because of other business. Or he was told ahead of time. So
this was the ranch that was in Colorado that I think that you had said we had talked about the ranch in Mexico earlier, but those are actually 2 different ranches. So this was actually a ranch that was very similar to the one that CIA and different operatives were brought to at different points for different reasons. That was in Colorado or near Colorado, near the actual plane site where that crash was. So that's what the ranch is when in this article it's talking about.
Well, and I find it a little more interesting. It says he was scheduled to be on the flight, but probably like insider training, he was forewarned. It reminds me of who was the individual or the very rich person who climbed off the Titanic just before all of that mess went down. Stroke of luck. He is now the richest person because all the other rich people went down with the boat.
So, real quick, I missed it. How was Meyer Lansky affiliated with this overall situation?
That's
so
you.
He had
a prominent picture of him right there.
Yeah. So he had dealings with Alan Rivenbark, which was another cocaine dealer.
Because at that point, Lansky was as big as it gets in the mob.
Okay, the names Lansky and Vesco were listed in financial ledgers detailing millions of dollars in drug transactions. Those ledgers were confiscated along with $9 million worth of marijuana when the shipment was intercepted near Jamestown, Rhode Island. So there's a connection between Monahan and Lansky, and it looks like drugs and guns are surrounding that. But as I go into this little yellow box, I found it even more interesting. It says he had to cancel, but after learning of the crash while in Denver. So he's in Denver. He's in Colorado where the plane goes down. But canceled taking that plane flight. I find that a little astonishing. Happens to be in the
Maybe he knew something.
That's what I'm saying, like insider trading. While in Denver, Monahan, employer and fiance of Miss Stock, went to the crash site in Eagle, Colorado to assist with funeral arrangements for several of the crash victims. So that does make some interesting thoughts, right? Some theories there.
Yeah. Well, and then we all know where Meyer Lansky was involved in. He was all over the country.
Yeah.
So
now this next article said network piped cocaine to DM. What is this one about?
I'm trying to see. Did I circle anything on here?
No, you did not. And it looks to me like it's kind of they busted these individuals. It has somebody named Galinsky as the supplier for the cocaine. Later, Ramsey's.
Oh, I didn't have
What does DM stand for?
Pipe cocaine.
Drug money.
Okay.
Oh, it's not showing my circle that I had on here.
Yeah, I didn't have. As a reliable stream, but the price was high by Big Apple standards. It was a flat-out ripoff, especially for cocaine that was not the best quality. Before it found its way to Lowe's, somebody in New York had mixed it with a look-alike powder to boost profits. Galinsky was not satisfied with price or quality of his supplies, Haas told investigators. Then came a fateful meeting in the Ames bar. Del Haas, John's roommate, and an Iowa State University dropout, met Thomas Ramsey through mutual friends. Early in summer of 1986, they found themselves together at a party where friends snorted cocaine. The two hit it off, and both men would later wind up in prison. Tom Ramsey and his brother Michael, who lived outside of Stratford, were connected to drug suppliers in a big way. They had two, I think this was Iowa, right? This was a group.
Des Moines, yeah.
Yes, Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So probably just another member of the mob, part of the network, right?
Yeah.
Moving
drugs. I have to go back in my things because I have it highlighted in mine. But for some reason, the highlight didn't take when I sent it to you.
Right. And I'm trying to see if I can just scan really quick to see. It did mention a John, and I'm not sure who the John is, but John's roommate and Iowa State University dropout. So they must tell us at some point who John is. Well, we figured it out. Oh, John Haas. So it all had begun so simply for John Haas in 1983 when he was working at Audio Labs, a stereo store.
Carlos Garcia was a known person that was at the Diplomat. I do know that. I see that name in there.
Oh, okay.
Who's the guy in the picture in the corner?
That's Galinsky.
He was one of the suppliers of the cocaine.
Okay.
So somehow that was then made a connection to, I'm guessing, Monahan?
Yeah.
Galinsky's biggest customer is former tennis shop operator Lester Pearl of October. Yeah, this just goes on into...
that tennis thing, they had an event at the Diplomat for him, for that tennis player.
Oh.
And that's who. And then John Monahan is the one that ran that hotel, and John Walsh was his manager. So.
Gotcha. So it's just basically making connections again. And here's you've given like this nifty little article. This is part of that article actually, and it shows the connections from supplier, importer. We're looking at New York, Brazil, Houston. Obviously, Texas is back in the mix. Stratford, Iowa.
Yeah, they used to make these really good maps like this in newspapers back in the day. And now you have to make them yourself.
Ames, West Des Moines, Des Moines, but then it goes out to the dealers, and the dealers range from Des Moines, Urbandale, Bondurant. Looks like most of this was all happening in the Iowa area, but he's probably just one leg, right? I mean, honestly.
Yeah, so this is just showing, like, I like this map because it's showing you in that one picture how how that triangle worked, because it was remember the triangle that they always
there's the connection
about.
To Brazil, the connection to Mexico, the connection to New York. it looks like, yeah, that went down to.
Isn't the central connection on the left? Isn't that Chicago?
Yeah.
It says Iowa. It's right close to Chicago.
Yeah, okay.
But that's evidently where this individual supplier was. Doesn't mean that he wasn't supplying to other places, but primarily out taking care of this particular area, it looks like. Okay, detective linked to suspect in the Walsh case. So this brought us back to Otis O'Toole. And of course, then they find out that the evidence has been lost, but this detective is actually linked to the purported suspect, and probably in the same manner that the Texas Rangers were linked to Henry Lee Lucas, and that was by way of feeding them the information necessary for them to claim responsibility for these murders so that these cases could be closed on the wrong suspect. So I think that's pretty much what this amounts to, right? Oh, did we lose you? I think we lost her.
Yeah, I don't see her.
She must have got a notification.
Is her mic working?
Well, she went completely off before her little box stayed with her name, and the video went out. But here we've lost her altogether. So yes, we did talk about a little bit about O'Toole. Now, in this next article, I think this is also in regards to, actually, this kind of names a whole bunch of people. So this article that she sent me is kind of the wrap up here. Says the group met the deadline and came up with a plan that would be so large in scope that if carried out to the most minute detail, it would become simple by its mere complexity. The plan called for a second airplane to be set up by the CIA. The first was Flying Tigers. This was done, and the airline was named Overseas National Airline. This airline suddenly, without yet having any aircraft, received the contracts for all civilian carrier and military cargo into the Pacific Rim and Southeast Asia. The master plan called for the CIA to enter into the drug smuggling business in a total and complete fashion. Each of the 5 planners would have his own field to handle. Bush would be the secret head of ONA and handle all of the shipping of the drugs under forged waybills. Armitage would be the gopher for the group and the intermediary with any undesirables. General Lansdale would handle all the distribution network and collection services within the military in Vietnam. William Colby was to handle the setting up of all the manpower, from runners, peddlers, pushers, collectors, and so forth, as well as the elimination of any who might prove to be uncontrollable, be they American or Vietnamese. Lieutenant Colonel Ferreira was to use his contacts in Latin America and in the Middle East to obtain from various governments the needed drug, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, LSD, etc., as ordered by Colby. Bush was to handle the opium from China and subject the addicts to the rehab at rehabnear.me. The operation was given the name of Eagle 2. At the request of Ferreira, for he felt it would be lucky to have the same code as the Eagle Project had participated in when he was with the OSS. Now, that's the Office of Secret Security. Do I have that acronym right? OSS. I feel like that was
the precursor to the CIA. It existed during World War II up until 1947 when the CIA was formed. And the CIA basically took over the duties of the OSS. There was a guy named William Bill Donovan that used to be the head of the OSS. They used to call him Wild Bill.
And when did that makes sense? When did you say that the CIA was formed?
1947. But many of the CIA people had been former OSS people.
Right. And I think I tossed around at one point the possibility of Jack being OSS or something from that particular era. Now, she sent this across and I couldn't rightly read it, but it says the most prolific serial killer in every state. I did read as well that the United States, for whatever unknown reason, has the highest rate of serial killers in it. So it was interesting to see this little breakdown of serial killers from different states. However, I can't read the information on it. So I was hoping that she was going to be here for me to be able to ask her whether or not she had a better version of this, because once I blow it up, I can't read it. And they, of course, got some unknown faces in here. So that tells us that we've got somebody killing that they've not identified. And it would be interesting to note if these land in the states where we know Jack has been. Either way. Life Teamsters Mafia have air freight packed. This was, oh, maybe this is her telling me she has lost contact. I'm in, just need Juan to let me in. Juan, let her in, let her in. I can use her right now. Oh, I see the message too. Juan, can you let me back in? Where's Juan? Did you take a potty break?
There she is.
She's sideways. There she is, right side up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it kicked me out, and I was waiting. I was waiting for Juan to put me back in, but I guess he didn't see.
Yeah, no, we got you.
We're good to go.
Back.
You want to go back to the prayer slides?
Well, I just thought that was a good compilation of those serial killers that they, portray as the ones that are involved in these killings. And
are you able to read that? Are you able to read the information on your end?
Let me see.
No. I meant like in the article that you have that you sent to me, not necessarily on. You can't read it on here because it's too blurry. Can't see. I meant in general on your version. Are you capable of reading it from your end? The one that you have. Okay. So basically, it would be interesting, as I was stating, to figure out who these individuals are that are blacked out. They do not have a picture for these individuals, to know who they're attributed to and what states, and whether or not those were consistent with where Jack has been, because we could place a face in there if we wanted. Are you still with us, Lindsay?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So the next one is the Life Teamsters Mafia have air freight pack. So this article that you sent me, can you explain to us why this one ended up with us?
Okay, let me see. Which one you got?
Oh, well,
so let me just goes to show you that
the Teamsters are all up in it, just like Hoffa. Now, Hoffa's dead already, right?
Yeah, I think he is. So it just goes to show you that
I'm not sure.
That air, like as it says, that air packed of that air freight back to that triangle, and kind of shows you like in that article you just read, it links back to where the newspapers were reporting on this kind of thing, and nobody was paying attention to it.
So CIA, Bush, cocaine, and the whole team. This starts by saying Teamster Union leaders have formed an alliance with such well-known mafia figures as Johnny Dio, or Diogardi, to seize control of the lucrative air freight industry, which already is being plundered by an estimated $50 million to $100 million a year in cargo thefts, Life magazine reported Sunday. Life said the industry, which last year produced revenues of close to $1 billion, was threatened by a criminal incursion unmatched since Prohibition. Cargo thieves have turned airports into a plundering ground. Mobsters and labor racketeers have infiltrated the air freight industry. The nationwide total was estimated in a recent Senate investigation at between $50 million and $100 million. While mobsters have infiltrated legitimate companies in the industry to steal from the inside as they monopolize legal profits, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters is maneuvering for a nationwide collective bargaining agreement with the industry, which would give the union the power to shut it down at will with strikes, Life said. The vehicle for both the Mafia and the Teamsters is the National Association for Air Freight, Inc., an industry trade association, the magazine said. Its goal is to become the exclusive nationwide bargaining agent with the Teamsters for the air freight industry. If that comes about, the mob through NAAF will be firmly established at all major airports. Its spy system will be broadened, and hijacking and theft will increase. The most powerful man with NAAF, Anthony Hickey, I can't read his name on there, a soldier in the mafia of the late Vito Genovese.
Just for the record,
Yeah.
Hoffa was still alive at that time. He disappeared in July of 1975.
Do you think he was still alive
I
when
know
is
he was
this?
still alive.
So this is 1971. I'm thinking I'm in today's presence of 1991, or not today's
No,
presence, but the PowerPoint's presence of 1991. So yes, you're
right
correct. This
now.
is back from 71. Says Teamsters and chairman of the union's airlines division met with De Lorenzo, that's his name, and others in early 1969, and in June of that year advised locals to step up recruitment of employees of NAAF companies. The magazine said a pivotal local in the Teamsters campaign was 295, which represents cargo handlers, truck drivers, and other air freight employees at Kennedy International Airport. The local is run by its secretary treasurer, Harry Davidoff, 54, an old style tough guy, labor racketeer, and kickback expert with long criminal record. So that's interesting, but I didn't see the mentioning of Bush. So
it just kind of brings in all those characters, and because and it like to that up into the present, and it actually pulls in Jack in there as well, because that's during his his prime time of his killings within
69,
those years.
the Zodiac.
And
Back in
it just goes to
71,
show you.
I think Bush Sr. was a senator from Texas. Good, but it wasn't until 76 that he became head of the CIA. But that doesn't mean he didn't have connections prior to that.
Right, 100%.
Especially since his dad, Prescott Bush, is deeply involved in a lot of the powerful mucky mucks throughout the years.
Well, yeah, and one of the pictures that I saw at the book depository actually had young Bill Clinton and young Bush in there.
Yeah. Yep,
as kids.
I've seen that
they
picture.
were in the pictures at the depository. And I always thought that was extremely interesting, is who shuffled these kids off to this location following, the immediate assassination of the president. What in the world are people thinking?
And then they both became president later. That's crazy.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's not a coincidence. It's definitely not a coincidence.
No, certainly not. Okay. Now that brings us to and we're at 10:47, so we've got about 2.5 minutes left here, but I did put in your notes, and I think, I put in your notes, and it says the ranches in Colorado is one for mobsters to go to. Alan Rivenbank, huge mobster, owned this ranch. Then here we see in Colorado that a plane carrying loads of cocaine crashes near this mobster-owned ranch, and just so happened that John Monahan. Okay, so that covers basically what we've already talked about, but you've put together kind of a nice little flow chart here. You want to describe that to us?
So it's just how I connect. This is just like my evidence of my little scribbles of how I connected all this together. All the way down to from the CIA to Zodiac, to these cults, to these mafia, to the mob, how literally, like as that article just described, the Teamsters, as we know that, and we can see that this is definitely a team of people, and and then we have these writings of the Zodiac, Jack, constantly throughout these years, and as we know that we think he's one of the writers, whether after he stopped the killings or, as he was still part of that whole thing. It kept going and going.
Yeah, he stayed affiliated. They had him. He had to.
You've got to go.
It's like you can't leave. You're there for life.
You put up here, who is G.J. Schaefer? Is that a question you've been looking to answer, or have you answered that?
He was one of the cops that he was one of the serial killers. He was actually a named serial killer, if you look him up. And he was actually a cop. So it just kind of shows you how the law enforcement is involved in all this, and how they do know things and that they don't disclose.
Right. And this is a nice, neat little flow chart here as you're looking at it. It really kind of brings everybody in. Texas, Mexico, Florida, Hand of Death, Finder's Cult, Aleister Crowley, cult members, the Hand of Death, which included Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole. It just goes on and on. So I think this is interesting enough for everybody to be able to view. You can take a look at it on your own time. That's pretty much all the time we actually have for today. Is there anything else you guys want to add, or?
Wish me luck on my drive home.
I wish you luck.
Be careful.
Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday. Take care, you guys, and thank you for being here. Soon.
Feaster argument went well.
Yay! Yeah. I'll call you.
Good. All right.
Bye, guys.
Oh,